And Amy, you heard in Mike Scott's newscast the response from Japan to North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un's most recent missile test. And our friend Jed Babbin over the Washington Times has an interesting take on what North Korea's endgame may be here. So let's bring him into this conversation now. Jed Babbin, former Deputy Undersecretary of Defense, Washington Times, American Spectator contributor, and I believe, now Jed, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe you were also a Chelsea Manning Fellow at the Kennedy School at Harvard. Is that right?
No, I didn't get that letter.
Sorry to hear that.
You can't even make a parody of that, and Harvard is what it is. But it's as the old man said long ago, Harvard hates America. Anyway, North Korea.
Yes. Speaking of hating America, you write in the Washington Times that you believe Kim Jong-un thinks he can deter us with his weapons program from his expansionist desires. Explain.
Well, yeah, I think we've gone a long time thinking that Kim is just trying to blackmail us and extort money. That's what the president has been saying. I mean, quite frankly, that's what has happened many times over the past couple of decades. But this is different, guys. This has gone back just well past the idea of extorting money from us. I think what he's trying to do is deter us from changing his regime. He may have ambitions to reconquer South Korea. He may have ambitions to conquer Japan. He may have a lot of other ambitions we don't quite know about yet. But this is much different than mere extortion. He's trying to deter us from interfering and intervening in whatever he plans to do.
So you think this is some kind of Far East mutually assured destruction play?
Well, it may very well be. And it's to the point where they are almost capable of doing it. They've clearly got missiles that can reach most of the United States at this point. They probably have nuclear weapons that they can put in those missiles and deliver them. So he has the ability to make good on his threats, and obviously we have to take them very seriously, but we also have to figure out what his end game is, and I do believe it's more than just extorting money.
And many of us woke up this morning to learn about this latest intercontinental ballistic missile that they launched over the northern part of Japan, and they sounded the safety warning signals, and people ran out and they were hunkering down. What's Japan doing? What's their reaction to this?
Well, their reaction is they're wondering whether, quite frankly, they have to have nuclear weapons themselves. That would be contrary to their constitution and pretty much everything that's happened in Japan since World War II. So they're reluctant to do that, but they're scared, and rightly so. There's all sorts of things going on. There's even suggestions, well, quite frankly, more than suggestions. There is a danger that either going up or coming down, one of those missiles, which are, of course, launched without notice to anybody, could shoot down a commercial airliner, killing hundreds of people. So that would just be the start of whatever Kim wants to do. So there's a lot of dangers inherent in these launches. The Kim regime is not caring about any of the dangers they create, and Japan is very worried, and again, they should be.
Are there opportunities for missile defense, including space-based missile defense systems, for us and our allies that are not being pursued?
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole point of my piece in the Washington Times yesterday was to point out several things. Number one, that our missile defense systems right now are not terribly good. They are pretty good, but they're very, very limited and very small in number. And quite frankly, the fact of the matter is we need a better missile defense. It's been a subject that's been neglected for almost 3 decades now. And the president and Congress need to get together and figure out what to do about it. What I'm advocating there is, pardon me, a system, something like what used to be proposed in 1992. There was this thing called the Brilliant Pebbles concept. It would have ringed the earth with hundreds of very small missile interceptors that could be basically autonomous. Not artificial intelligence. Let's not get all excited about that, but autonomous in that they would automatically destroy in ICBMs that were targeted at the United States or its allies. And I think it's time to do something like that. Quite frankly, it would be cheaper than what we're doing on missile defense right now and vastly more reliable. Again, the thing we have is a big problem that our missile defenses are not capable to do what they need to do. They're not perfect by any means. test missiles, fail to intercept their targets and shoot them down. We need a system that's more reliable and far more widespread.
What about sanctions from the UN? Is that working at all to slow down their weapons program? I mean, what seafood, coal, fuel, is that moving the needle?
Nothing's going to slow them down, Amy. You know, we've had various types of proposals. The proposal to blockade North Korea and cut off all their exports and imports, that was shot down in the UN, and the president caved in on that. You know, the Russians and the Chinese are not going to support a total blockade, and nothing short of that is going to change what the North Koreans are doing. And even then, they may very well try to go ahead. In fact, that may very well go ahead and incent them to go and start whatever war they want to start.
I got to get your reaction to what Steve Bannon had to say on Sunday night on 60 Minutes about the foreign policy establishmentarians. Certainly, he would describe them as such. That's the best, the way he would describe them, of the last three presidential administrations prior to Trump, and whether or not you have the same contempt for them that he has, whether or not you think they're idiots as he does with respect to America's interventions in the Middle East and elsewhere.
Well, I would say that Mr. Bannon is very much off base with a lot of people. He's, you know, concisely right on some people, but to say that everybody who advised President Bush was an idiot and a despicable character, that's just way off base. Look, I know some of these people. You know, I know Defense Secretary Rumsfeld is an incredibly smart guy, former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Dick Myers, Peter Pace, brilliant men. And, you know, for Bannon to say what he said, it's just ridiculous. He's making a parody of himself. It's true. And that going to war in Iraq was probably the biggest mistake we made in the 20th century. But the fact of the matter is, the people who were advising the president on that, quite frankly, had to submit to his judgment. President Bush wanted to do that, and that's, quite frankly, his responsibility. They may have helped do that. It's their responsibility and their blame. But the fact of the matter is, Bannon is way off base. And, you know, with someone with Mr. Bannon's credentials, which, oh, by the way, have absolutely no validity in foreign policy or national security, he has no credentials in there. For him to criticize those people in that way is, again, it's off base.
So do you think General John Kelly's doing a good job with cleaning up the people that are around Trump?
Luis Gutierrez does not, by the way.
Well, all I can tell you is I don't know General Kelly. I assume that he's, as you know, any other Marine general I've known. He's a good, tough, smart guy, and he's got the toughest job in Washington. You know, Ruck trying to, you know, tame that White House and control the people who are going to go see that president. It's not a job I'd like.
All right. Well, then you can keep your job at the Washington Times and the American Spectator. He is Jed Babbin, former Deputy Undersecretary of Defense as well. Jed, thanks as always for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.